This is our time, the main thing. At this hour, I'm Andrei Sinitsyn in the studio. Hello. In the Zaporizhzhia region, 3 people were killed as a result of a Russian attack. All of them were in the Polohi district. This was reported by the head of the regional military administration, Ivan Fedorov. According to him, in just one day, the Russians shelled 18 settlements nearly 600 times. They used artillery, drones, and multiple rocket launchers. One person was killed as a result of an attack by the Russian Federation Army on Bila Tserkva in the Kiev region. This was reported by the head of the Kiev Regional Military Administration, Mykola Kalashnik. Due to the attack, fires broke out in the city on the premises of commercial and industrial enterprises. Windows were blown out in apartment buildings. The Kherson region was also under attack. A man was killed there. This was reported by local authorities. The Russians shelled residential neighborhoods in the village of Bilozerka. There is destruction and a fire broke out in a private house and an outbuilding. In addition, the Russian army struck Sumy. A child is among the injured. The port infrastructure of the Izmail district in the Odessa region was also hit by enemy fire. More than 10,000 residents remain without electricity. The Atesh partisans disrupted the delivery of Russian equipment near the temporarily occupied city of Debaltseve. The railway infrastructure was damaged, according to the movement's press service. Russian trains carrying fuel, ammunition, and equipment regularly travel along the route chosen for the strike. Thus, delays in supplying the aggressor's army directly impact the combat effectiveness of the Russian invaders in one of the enemy's priority directions, Atesh emphasized.
Agents of our movement carried out another sabotage near the city of Debaltseve in the Donetsk region. As a result, logistics were disrupted and the supply deliveries to the Russian occupation forces in the Donetsk direction were delayed. From the statement of the Atesh press service.
About 2,000 North Korean soldiers have died in the war against Ukraine. This was reported by South Korean intelligence. In addition, Pyongyang may send additional forces to the front, about 6,000 soldiers as part of the third wave of troop deployment. Since October of last year, North Korea has provided about 13,000 military personnel and weapons to support Russia in the war against Ukraine. The settlement of Udachne in the Donetsk region was liberated by Ukraine's defense forces. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Ukrainian defenders raised the national flag there. Udachne is located about 10 kilometers from Pokrovsk. Ukrainian forces destroyed all enemy strongpoints. Before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, more than 1,500 people lived there. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called for an end to Russia's war against Ukraine at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. He also emphasized the need to achieve peace based on the UN Charter and the norms of international law. According to him, the time has long come for a ceasefire that will lead to a just, comprehensive, and lasting peace. Guterres stated that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has unique opportunities to help shape a more peaceful, inclusive, and sustainable future. Let me remind you that the day before, the Council of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization adopted a declaration following the summit in China, which enshrined the principles of non-interference in internal affairs, non-use of force, and rejection of unilateral sanctions. Ukraine is not directly mentioned in the document. The Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs called this declaration a failure for the Kremlin. The administration of US President Donald Trump will very carefully consider the possibility of introducing new sanctions against Russia as early as this week. This was reported by US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in an interview with Fox News. According to him, all options remain on the table since the Kremlin dictator Putin continued bombing Ukraine despite recent peace talks.
Starting with the historic meeting in Anchorage and after the phone call when European leaders and President Zelensky were at the White House, Putin did the exact opposite of what he himself had declared. Moreover, he disgracefully intensified the bombings. But all options remain on the table, and we will consider them very carefully this week. Scott Bessent, U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, in an interview with Fox News.
On September 4th in Paris, a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing will be held under the chairmanship of the President of France and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This was reported by the Élysée Palace. The talks will be attended by the President of Ukraine, the Chancellor of Germany, the Secretary General of NATO, and the President of the European Commission. The main topic is security guarantees for Ukraine. The partners will also discuss further steps regarding the aggressor country. Irina Yusupova will provide more details about this.
From discussions and planning to the launch of real protection mechanisms. After the meetings in Anchorage and Washington, the issue of security guarantees for Ukraine has become a key topic for Kyiv's partners. Moreover, everyone fully understands that it is not just about current military support, but also about creating a reliable architecture that will protect against Russian aggression in the future.
Right now, peace in Ukraine is desperately needed. Germany is ready to take responsibility, including providing security guarantees. This was discussed in Copenhagen at the meeting of foreign ministers. And this will also be discussed on Thursday in Paris. Ukraine must be able to effectively and reliably deter future Russian aggression. And we need concrete answers very quickly.
Currently, 3 key concepts of security guarantees for Ukraine are being discussed. The first is NATO lead. It is assumed that in the event of a new attack on Ukraine, partners commit to providing assistance, but each country will determine the format and scope of that assistance independently. The second principle is boots on the ground. This refers to military contingents that will be sent to Ukraine after the cessation of hostilities or the signing of a peace agreement, but will be stationed far from the front line. And finally, the porcupine strategy. Here, the main security guarantees become an air shield, intelligence sharing, border monitoring, and air defense equipment.
As we all know, no one wants peace more than Ukraine. For a just and lasting peace, Ukraine needs strong security guarantees. We are currently working on them. But I can say that the first line of defense for security guarantees in Ukraine is strong, well-equipped Ukrainian armed forces capable of deterring further attacks. I often say that Ukraine must be a steel porcupine indigestible for potential invaders. The second line of defense for security guarantees will be a coalition of the willing, multinational forces supported by the Americans and with their presence. And finally, the third line of defense is a strong European defensive stance.
From the United States, European partners expect not only support for future multinational forces, but also increased sanctions pressure on Russia. It is obvious to everyone that Putin is stalling for time and has no intention of fulfilling the agreements reached in Vancouver. Moscow consistently rejects proposals for a ceasefire. The Kremlin keeps coming up with new excuses to derail the meeting between the president of Ukraine and Putin. At the same time, they accuse Kyiv and Europe of sabotaging the peace process.
The next few crucial days will truly be decisive, marking the definitive end of the specific period we began together with the esteemed President Donald Trump and the respected President Zelensky. Now we need to ensure the first meetings take place, discuss security guarantees, and we will continue to put pressure on the Kremlin, pushing for additional sanctions. And we are ready for this. Pressure from the United States is also necessary to force Russia back to the negotiating table.
As for security guarantees, the Kremlin is categorically opposed to the deployment of multinational forces on Ukrainian territory and demands veto power over any decision. Concessions to the aggressor are unacceptable, as he will perceive them as weakness, believes the head of the Polish government.
The past weeks and days have made it very clear that no concessions, no subtle games with Putin and aggressive Russia will lead to success or guarantee our security. Poland, Europe, NATO and the United States must once again, as we did 45 years ago when we received the support of the entire West during the formation of Solidarity, be very firm, decisive and united in the face of this latest version of the evil empire. Enough with the concessions.
More than 30 countries are already prepared to join in providing security guarantees for Ukraine, and the main expectation from the Paris summit is specifics, how each participant can help most effectively and how to force the aggressor to stop the war. Irina Yusupova for Freedom TV channel.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.